I, 32 am, work as an actuary for a large commercial insurance firm. My entire career revolves around meticulously calculating risk, analyzing hard data, and predicting outcomes. Because of this, I am a deeply pragmatic, logical person. I value quiet weekends, a well-maintained home, and absolute predictability. Ex-wife, 30F, was the exact opposite in every conceivable way. She thrived on constant chaos, impulsivity, and a deep-seated, unshakable belief that the world owed her a lavish lifestyle simply for existing. By the time we physically separated after 3 years of marriage, the divorce process had evolved into a grinding, hostile siege. She had not worked a full-time job since the Tuesday after our honeymoon. She strongly preferred spending her days shopping at high-end boutiques, dining out at expensive restaurants, and accumulating a staggering amount of credit card debt, funding it all entirely through my salary. When I finally filed for divorce due to her escalating financial irresponsibility and erratic, volatile behavior, she demanded the house, half of my premarital retirement accounts, and a permanent alimony figure that was mathematically impossible for me to pay. I immediately froze our joint credit cards and routed my salary to an individual, secure account. In retaliation, she moved out into a luxury high-rise apartment, fully assuming a judge would eventually force me to cover her exorbitant lease. My lawyer gave me strict, uncompromising instructions from day one. Be cooperative, document every single interaction, and do not provoke her under any circumstances. This was sound legal strategy in our jurisdiction, where family court judges frown heavily upon uncooperative spouses during the discovery phase. So, when ex-wife texted me demanding access to the house on a Saturday morning to collect her remaining winter coats, designer shoes, and seasonal items, I agreed. What she did not know was that I had recently upgraded the security infrastructure of the house. 3 weeks prior to this scheduled visit, she had stopped by unannounced while I was at the office. My elderly neighbor had politely let her in. When I returned home that evening, 2 expensive vintage watches left to me by my late grandfather and my backup corporate laptop were completely gone from my study. I could not definitively prove she took them. The local police informed me it was strictly a civil matter since we were still legally married, and the divorce was not finalized. The very next morning, I purchased 3 high-definition, motion-activated security cameras. I installed them discreetly around the property. One was carefully nestled in the thick bookshelf in the main living room, providing a wide angle of the kitchen and seating area. Another sat high up in the main hallway, disguised near a smoke detector. The third watched the front entryway. They recorded crystal-clear audio and 4K video directly to a secure cloud server. I live in a one-party consent state for recording conversations, meaning as long as I am a party to the conversation or the recording happens openly in my private residence to protect my property, it is perfectly legal. I did not mention these cameras to anyone, not even my lawyer. Saturday morning arrived. I sat at the kitchen island with a cup of black coffee, waiting patiently. She did not bring cardboard boxes. She did not bring luggage. She walked through the front door wearing a designer trench coat, carrying a thick manila folder. She did not even glance toward the hallway closet where her remaining clothes were actually kept. She marched into the kitchen and slammed the folder down on the granite counter. "Sign it," she demanded, her tone dripping with absolute authority. I looked down at the document. It was a revised settlement agreement drafted by her aggressively overpriced attorney. It stipulated that I would transfer the deed of the house entirely to her name within 30 days, assume all of her current credit card debt, and pay her $5,000 a month indefinitely. "No," I said, sliding the heavy folder back across the granite toward her. "We have professional mediation scheduled for next month. My lawyer handles all financial negotiations. You know this." Her face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated indignation. The entitlement radiated off her in palpable waves. "You don't get it," she snapped, leaning over the counter. "You don't have a choice anymore. I gave you my best years. I sacrificed my youth for your boring, pathetic career. You owe me this house. You owe me that money, and I am not leaving without your signature." "You are 30 years old," I replied evenly, keeping my voice completely level. You work part-time at an artisan candle shop before we met. Pack your clothes and leave my property. That is when the situation rapidly and dangerously devolved. Ex-wife stared at me, her chest heaving with rapid breaths. She hated nothing more than being denied what she felt she deserved. For years, she had successfully manipulated our arguments by escalating situations to the point of hysteria until I simply gave in just to buy peace. She expected me to cave. I stayed seated on the bar stool, my arms crossed, my expression completely neutral. She screamed. It was a piercing, completely unhinged sound that echoed off the high ceilings. She grabbed the manila folder and violently threw it at me. The legal papers scattered wildly across the kitchen floor. I stood up slowly and pulled my smartphone from my pocket, intending to call my lawyer to document her refusal to leave. Before my thumb could even unlock the screen, she lunged toward the living room console table. Sitting on that oak table was a heavy, solid glass decorative paperweight. It weighed at least 2 pounds. She picked it up, spun around, and hurled it directly at my face with every ounce of strength she possessed. I instinctively ducked hard to the left. The thick glass shattered violently against the drywall right behind where my head had been, leaving a deep, jagged indentation and showering the hardwood floor with sharp, dangerous fragments. "Are you insane?" I yelled, stepping back. She charged me. She closed the distance between us in a fraction of a second. Her hands went straight for my face. Her sharp acrylic nails dug deep into the side of my neck, carving 3 long, burning lines into my skin. She grabbed the collar of my dress shirt and ripped it forcefully downward, popping the buttons off and sending them scattering across the floor tiles. I immediately put my hands straight up in the air, palms open and facing her, rapidly backing away. "Get out of my house right now," I said firmly, keeping my voice loud and incredibly clear. "I am not touching you. Leave immediately." I kept backing up until my spine hit the stainless steel refrigerator. My hands remained strictly raised. I did not push her away. I did not attempt to block her strikes. I just let her stand there, panting heavily, staring wildly at my bleeding neck. Suddenly, her entire demeanor shifted. The blind, chaotic rage vanished in an instant, replaced by a cold, deeply calculating focus. It was genuinely terrifying to witness the transition. She looked around the quiet room. She looked down at the broken glass. She looked at me standing pinned against the appliance with my hands surrendered in the air. She reached her right hand up and violently dragged her own fingernails down her left forearm, intentionally leaving bright red, angry welts on her own skin. She grabbed the delicate neckline of her own expensive silk blouse and tore it open. She aggressively smeared her dark mascara with the heel of her hand, making it look exactly like she had been crying hysterically for hours. Then, she pulled her phone out of her coat pocket. She backed herself into the shadowed corner near the dining table, hit record, and pointed the camera directly at her own face. Please stop hitting me," she screamed into her phone, her voice shaking with perfectly manufactured terror. "You're hurting me. Don't touch me again. I'll sign whatever you want, I'll leave. Just please don't hit me anymore." She kept the camera angled specifically, so I was completely out of the frame. She recorded about 40 seconds of this hysterical acting. Then she stopped recording. She dropped the crying act instantly, her face returning to a smug, satisfied smirk. She turned on her heel and walked right out the front door, slamming it shut behind her. I stood in the kitchen for a very long time, listening to her car engine start and fade down the suburban street. I was shaking, but the analytical part of my brain took over. I walked calmly over to my home office. I opened my laptop and logged into the encrypted security camera cloud server. I pulled up the high-definition footage from the living room camera. The wide-angle lens had captured the entire kitchen and living area with pristine clarity. The audio was flawless. You could clearly see her throwing the heavy glass paperweight directly at my head. You could watch her charging me, violently scratching my neck and ripping my clothes. Most importantly, the camera perfectly captured my hands raised defensively in the air, my absolute refusal to engage, and her terrifying, calculating transition into destroying her own clothes and faking a distress video on her phone. It was undeniable, airtight, irrefutable proof of her physical assault and preparation for perjury. But as I was scrubbing backward through the timeline to download the necessary clips, I noticed a distinct spike in the audio waveform from about 25 minutes prior to the physical altercation. It happened while she was waiting in the main hallway, standing right beneath the second concealed camera, while I was upstairs in the master bathroom getting dressed. I clicked play and turned up the volume. She was pacing the hallway hardwood, holding her phone tightly to her ear. "Yeah, I'm at his house right now." Ex-wife's voice echoed clearly from the laptop speakers. "I'm going to push him until he signs the settlement today. Did you secure the vice president promotion? Good. Once I get his money and the house, we can finally take that trip to Cabo. Don't worry about his legal fees. I'm going to make sure he gets fired from the firm so he can't afford to fight me in court anymore. Love you too." I sat back in my desk chair, staring blankly at the glowing screen. The interconnected reality of the situation fell into place with sickening clarity. Boss. The exact same boss who had been inexplicably hostile toward me at the corporate office for the last 4 months. He had been systematically removing me from high-visibility projects, issuing unwarranted negative performance reviews out of nowhere, and threatening my annual bonuses. I had been racking my brain trying to figure out what I had done to offend him. They were having an affair. Boss was actively conspiring with my hostile ex-wife to ruin me financially, drain my marital assets, and terminate my employment, all so they could run off together funded by my life's work. The level of deceit and coordinated malice was profound. The rest of Saturday and most of Sunday passed in eerie silence. I spent the time organizing the files, backing them up to 3 separate physical drives, and printing out relevant timelines. I knew a storm was coming, and I was going to let her build it as high as she possibly could before I destroyed the foundation. On Sunday evening, my phone finally buzzed on the coffee table. It was a text from ex-wife. I sent the video to mother, brother, and boss. I also drafted a police report and a request for an emergency restraining order. Sign the settlement papers by Monday at 9 a.m., or I go to the cops, get you arrested, and post the video everywhere. Your life will be over. A minute later, before I could even process the threat, she posted a public status on her social media. She announced, "I told everyone you're abusive. The truth is finally out. I am surviving a monster. The man I loved has been hurting me behind closed doors for years." She tagged my entire family and several mutual friends. The social fallout was instantaneous and overwhelming. My phone lit up with a barrage of notifications, texts, and missed calls. Mother called me frantically, her voice trembling with panic, demanding to know what was going on, and why ex-wife had sent her a horrible, traumatic video of her crying and begging for her life. Brother texted me shortly after, asking if I had lost my mind and offering to help me find a criminal defense attorney. The sheer audacity of her entitlement was staggering to comprehend. She firmly believed that by aggressively weaponizing the justice system and manipulating my own family against me, she could successfully extort an entire estate and a lifetime of income out of me. She wanted me panicked. She wanted me desperate, cornered, and willing to sign away my future to protect my freedom and reputation. I ignored every single call. I sent one group text to mother and brother. Do not engage with her. I am perfectly fine. I have absolute proof that she is lying, and I am handling it tomorrow morning. Trust me. Monday morning arrived. Exactly at 8:30 a.m., her lawyer emailed my lawyer. The subject line read in bold capital letters, "Urgent, settlement, or immediate criminal action." The email formally attached screenshots of her self-inflicted arm scratches and threatened that if I did not sign the deed over by 9 a.m. sharp, they would file a temporary domestic violence restraining order, go to the police precinct, and release the video to my employer's ethics committee. It was extortion in its purest, most arrogant form, legally documented by her own counsel. I picked up my smartphone. I opened my active text thread with ex-wife. She had sent one last message at 8:45 a.m. Time is ticking. I told everyone you're abusive. Sign it now, or I ruin you. I typed my brief reply. Perfect timing. I hit send. Then, I opened my email client and drafted a mass message. I attached the raw, unedited security footage files from both the living room and the hallway. I attached the extracted audio file. I put mother, brother, her entire extended family, boss, and the vice president of human resources at my firm in the direct recipient line. I kept the text simple. Please see the attached security footage regarding the recent false allegations and corporate misconduct. I clicked send. Next, I uploaded the video directly to my social media accounts, set the privacy to public, and tag her right back. When I posted the security footage of her attacking me while I never raised a hand, everyone saw the truth. The false narrative she had so carefully constructed flipped with terrifying, unstoppable speed. Within 20 minutes of the upload, my phone rang. It was the vice president of HR at my company. She had watched the video and listened intently to the clear audio of ex-wife talking to boss about their conspiracy. The VP instructed me to take the rest of the week off with full pay while they handled the internal situation. By noon, heavily armed corporate security escorted boss out of the glass building in front of the entire floor. He was terminated immediately for cause, violating the company's strict ethics and non-fraternization policies, and for actively conspiring to sabotage a subordinate employee. He instantly lost his six-figure salary, all of his unvested stock options, and his professional reputation in the insurance industry. I did not wait around at home. I drove straight to the Central Police Precinct downtown. I walked in, asked to speak with a detective handling domestic violence, and handed over a secure flash drive containing the high-definition video, the audio files, and the printed screenshots of her text messages explicitly demanding property in exchange for not going to the authorities. I also included the email from her attorney. In my state, blackmailing someone for property under the explicit threat of false criminal accusations is felony extortion. Throwing a heavy glass object at someone's head is assault with a deadly weapon. The detective took one look at the clear footage of her faking the injuries and immediately began drafting an arrest warrant. By 3 p.m. that same afternoon, uniformed police officers arrived at her luxury apartment complex. Ex-wife was sitting comfortably on her expensive couch, refreshing her social media, watching her entire social circle completely tear her apart in the comment section of my post. They placed her in handcuffs and read her Miranda rights right in the lobby. She screamed hysterically at the officers, demanding they arrest me instead, frantically insisting I was the real abuser. They completely ignored her theatrics and placed her in the back of the cruiser. Her lawyer officially withdrew as her legal counsel the very next morning, citing an irreconcilable breakdown in attorney-client communication and a strict ethical refusal to be party to felony extortion and perjury. The legal consequences over the next few months were absolute and devastating for her. During our final divorce hearing, the judge reviewed the footage entered into evidence. Ex-wife sat at the respondent's table, looking incredibly small and deflated, her overwhelming arrogance entirely shattered. Because she had committed a severe domestic battery and attempted felony extortion against me, the judge ruled that she had engaged in extreme marital fault. Her entitled request for permanent alimony was denied with extreme prejudice. She was legally ordered to return the vintage watches she had stolen. I retained 100% of the house equity, my retirement accounts, and all marital assets. She was left with absolutely nothing but her massive credit card debt and pending criminal charges. She ultimately pled guilty to a reduced charge of aggravated assault and extortion to avoid prison time, receiving 3 years of strict probation, mandatory domestic violence anger management classes, and a permanent criminal record that will flag on every background check for the rest of her life. Boss, now unemployed, disgraced, and facing his own impending divorce after his wife saw the viral video, abandoned ex-wife completely to try and salvage his own ruined life. I spent the first weekend after the divorce decree was signed sitting quietly in my living room. The house was finally peaceful. The constant, draining undercurrent of anxiety, the endless financial manipulation, the exhaustion of walking on eggshells in my own home, it was all permanently gone. I spackled and painted over the dent in the drywall where the glass had shattered. I bought a new dress shirt. I focused entirely on my career, and a month later, I was officially promoted to fill the senior management vacancy left by boss. standing my ground, and enduring that brief storm was the hardest thing I ever had to do. But watching the undeniable truth completely dismantle her malicious lies made every single second of it worth it. If you enjoyed watching Karma deliver flawless, undeniable victory, hit that subscribe button before my next crazy ex tries to steal my dog.